Hi, it's Katrina! From mythological cities brought back to life to new civilizations found that no one was looking for, here are 10 of the most unbelievable lost cities found. Number 10. Helike. Often called the real Atlantis, Helike was a Greek city that suffered a tragedy in 373 BC. Surprisingly, there are actually far more accounts of Helike than Atlantis, and these records are what led to the ruins being discovered. It was the height of the Greek Empire, but on one fateful winter's night, an earthquake struck. The initial damage, along with the subsequent tidal wave, obliterated the city. Everything, including its inhabitants, were lost beneath the waves. That's a scary thought because even today, there is not much we can do against these types of natural disasters. For centuries, researchers had used the clues and documents to try and discover the remains of the city, but all that had been found were 2 coins. That was until 2001, when a research team finally discovered the evidence they were looking for. Geological modeling showed that rather than washing it out to sea, a process called liquefaction took place, where the ground beneath turned to liquid and caused everything on top to sink into it from the impact. Thousands of years of sediment had built up on top of the lagoon that had been formed during the event. After realizing this, the researchers took core samples where they first found evidence of a Roman city, then of an Iron Age settlement, and finally recovered Greek pottery which pinpointed Helike's true position. Buried so deep beneath the ground, it'll take a long time to uncover what remains, but it's sure to be a treasure trove of ancient Greek artifacts. Number 9. Urkesh. It was once a major hub for the Near Eastern Hurrian civilization and thought to be the home of a primordial god, but the city of Urkesh was lost beneath the sands of what is now northern Syria. Very little was known about the city or the people who built it, but this all changed in the 1980s when archaeologists were finally able to uncover it. At first, they found a towering mound called Tel Mozan that contained what remained of an elaborate palace, temple, and what seemed to be a plaza. Following a decade of research on the site, it soon became clear that they were revealing the remains of Urkesh. It's one of the earliest cities to ever have been built, reaching its heyday between 4000 and 1300 BC. It was the center of Hurrian life, both political and religious, and was also a major point on the trade route between Anatolia and the rest of Syria. Artifacts found from the city have taught us how this ancient civilization lived and stayed independent from the dangerous conditions that surrounded it. Number 8. Xanadu. The Chinese city of Xanadu flourished between 1256 and 1368, where it functioned as the summer capital of the country. It was built by the grandsons of Genghis Khan, and at its peak was home to more than 100,000 residents. It was once visited by Marco Polo, but was ultimately destroyed in 1369 by the invading Ming army, and it was abandoned for centuries. The remains are now a World Heritage Site, but all that still stands are grassy mounds and ruins. Many of the artifacts that survived have been taken by visitors, but there are still a number in public hands that are on display. The ceramic work from there was incredible, with intense colors used to create ornate designs. No wonder tourists were stealing everything. This dragon's head was found in one of the city's palaces and is one of 3 that have been found, thought to be decorative features attached to the end of beams. Numerous other objects similar in design have also been preserved, and excavation work continues to try and dig up further treasures that remain hidden. And now for a legendary city found underwater. But first, if you are a returning subscriber, welcome back! If you are new here, be sure to subscribe before you leave and click the bell to join the notification squad. We'd love to have you! Number 7. Thonis-Heracleion. Heracleion used to be the gateway to the Mediterranean, a trade hub for the Egyptian Empire through which goods from Greece and elsewhere would enter the country. Located near Alexandria, Egypt, Helen of Troy famously fled to Heracleion with her abductor/lover Paris. It was a place of extraordinary wealth, but something happened about 1200 years ago that turned this place to rubble and buried it beneath the waves. So comprehensive was its destruction that the city was thought for centuries to have been a myth created by the authors of the time. However, an RAF commander flying over the area in the 1930s saw ruins in the water. Years later, archaeologists used special sonar to search for the most concentrated areas and sent in divers. They started with colossal statues and found more and more as they went in with water dredges and underwater vacuum cleaners. Some of the most amazing images come from uncovering Heracleion under the sea. More than 64 ships were found buried in the clay and sand that covers the seabed, and with more than 700 anchors, it's the biggest single discovery of ancient ships ever. Along with these have been large quantities of gold coins and bronze weights and giant statues of gods that have been recovered, some more than 16 feet tall. Stone inscriptions have also been retrieved that are written in both Greek and ancient Egyptian. It remains a mystery as to why Heracleion met its fate, but having been found 150 feet beneath the water, the land under the city must have collapsed, causing it to drop. Number 6. Sigiriya. The ruins of the ancient city of Sigiriya, meaning Lion Rock, can be found atop a 660-foot-tall column of rock in central Sri Lanka. The site was chosen for a fortress by King Kasyapa, and he had his palace built on the summit. Surrounding the sides were colorful frescoes, and on a plateau about halfway up, a giant gateway that was in the shape of a lion. The citadel was abandoned following his death in 495, and it was used as a Buddhist monastery for 1,000 years before being completely emptied. Today, it is a World Heritage Site and seen as one of the greatest examples of ancient urban planning that still exist. The design is symmetrical, and there are even structures built to retain and hydraulically move water that still work. The frescoes, however, have been almost entirely lost, as has the mirror wall, a rock face that was apparently polished to such an extent that the king could see his own reflection as he walked past. The remains of the lion still stand in place, though, and the staircases leading up to the entrance show just how amazing the construction of the city was, and how great a vantage point it would have provided across the surrounding land. Number 5. Dvaraka. The lost ancient city of Dvaraka was mentioned in the Mahabharata, one of the two major Sanskrit epics of ancient India, as well as other sacred texts. According to the text, it was located in the capital of the area of Gujarat, and it was one of the 7 sacred cities of Hinduism. It was described as being on the coast near the Raivataka mountain range and is the only city on earth that was studded with gems. It is said that Krishna lived in Dwarka, and during this time, the city was full of the sounds of birds and bees all buzzing around the parks and lakes. There were more than 900,000 royal palaces, built with crystal and silver, and the entire place was adorned with sapphires, emeralds, and a wide variety of precious stones. Evidence of the city had been long lost, and with such opulent descriptions, many believed it was a place created solely for the religious texts, to make them seem even more magnificent. In the 1980s, during underwater excavations in the Gujarat region, researchers found evidence of a city along with several satellite towns that dated back to 1500 BC. Those who discovered it feel confident that it is the real city, as described in the Mahabharata, although it's not clear how the city became submerged, or perhaps more importantly, what happened to all of the valuable materials that were said to be used in its construction. They were most likely stolen from long ago. Number 4. The Lost City. Colombia's lost city, known as Ciudad Perdida in Spanish, has no known original name yet, and it was just always called the Lost City. Built in 800 AD, 650 years before Machu Picchu in Peru, it's in the Sierra Nevada region, surrounded by dense jungle, and is thought to have been a commercial trade center for the civilization that lived there at the time. Very little is known about who built it, but it's believed to have been abandoned during the Spanish conquest and was taken over by the jungle. It remained untouched by the wider world until 1972, when treasure hunters discovered a flight of 1,263 stone steps. They climbed on up and were shocked at what they saw. The site had at least 150 different terraces, plazas, and paths. A population of at least 8,000 people could have lived here comfortably, and so far only 10% of the site has been excavated. It's become a popular tourist site, but a treacherous one. It requires an almost 30-mile trek through dense jungle to get there, and until recently, this meant crossing terrain controlled by paramilitary activity. A group of tourists were kidnapped on their way to the site in 2003. As Colombia has gotten safer, travelers are flocking to the city, and now the country is worried about the indigenous villages being affected. Number 3. Leptis Magna. There are 5 World Heritage Sites in Libya, but the most famous and historically significant is Leptis Magna. Hardly the most accessible of places, this forgotten Roman city that looks over the Mediterranean was enlarged during the reign of Septimius Severus between 193 and 211. It regularly had to be defended against Berber incursions over the next few hundred years, but it was finally abandoned following the Muslim invasion in 647. It was said to have been one of the most beautiful Roman cities, with huge public monuments, a harbor, multiple marketplaces, storehouses, shops, and residential districts. The remains of the city are some of the best preserved examples of the Roman Empire that you'll find anywhere, after being revealed by extensive archaeological work that began in the 1930s. A number of monuments still stand, and incredibly detailed mosaics have been found depicting Roman life. One of them, known as the Gladiator mosaic, is thought of by experts as one of the finest examples of mosaic representation that has ever been discovered. Due to the issues in the country, many of the artifacts are now on display in the Leptis Magna Museum, or have sadly been relocated to other countries. Still, the majority of the city's main architecture still remains in place, and it is an incredible sight to see. Number 2. Pyramid City of Caral. One of the least known but most prolific ancient societies was the Norte Chico civilization that lived in the Supe region of Peru. They were the first known empire of the Americas, living around 5,000 years ago. Their capital, the Pyramid City of Caral, is one of the most incredible archaeological sites on the continent. It's in the Supe Valley, about 200 miles north of Lima, and the ruins were first discovered during a survey mission in 1905. Then, only small features were uncovered, but over the following century, more and more was found, and even the hills in the region were discovered to be stepped pyramids that had become covered in earth. The radiocarbon dating of some bags unearthed at the site found that they were more than 3,000 years old, which proved that Caral was the largest site ever found of an early complex society existing in the Americas. The complex has 6 large pyramids arranged around a central plaza. The Great Pyramid was high enough to look out across the entire city and contained a series of small rooms, including an atrium and one containing a small altar. Beyond these central structures are courtyards, an amphitheater, and 3 sunken plazas, enough to support a population of more than 3,000 people. Number 1. The Lost City of the Monkey God. The Lost City of the Monkey God, also known as La Ciudad Blanca, is a mythical place that is said to be in the eastern jungle of Honduras. Explorers have searched for the city since the 16th century, when rumors of its existence came to the attention of the Spanish invaders. Different accounts of the place have led some to believe that there are actually a number of lost cities in the region. However, it's generally thought to have been one city built by a wealthy civilization adorned with gems and gold. This has meant, unsurprisingly, that treasure hunters have scoured the forest to try and discover its location. One team claimed to have found it in 1939, but its leader died before being able to return, and he never shared any information about where it was. In 2015, though, a team of archaeologists who set out to find the legendary city found the remains of an ancient society, uncovering extensive plazas, earthworks, mounds, and a large pyramid. This had all been built more than 1,000 years ago, but for some reason it was abandoned. Is this site the remains of the lost city of the Monkey God? Or is it a completely different lost city? No one is really sure, but there's definitely much more that's hidden in the jungle of South America. Who knows what will be found next? Thanks for watching! Be sure to subscribe and I'll see you soon! Bye!